Welcome back, everybody, to All Things Rangers. I am your host, Marc Williams, who is desperately seeking a nap right now and often traveled as well. And, of course, I am joined by the one and only Mr. Anthony LaRocco.
And like the victory song says for the Islanders, they're right back where they started from. Semifinals, conference finals again. Let's go.
I think that's basically the best way to say that. They are right back to where they started from because deja vu all over again. That's one of Yogi Berra's best lines. Because we're going to be doing an Islanders playoff preview, and their opponent is the first one they're seeing since their season ended last year. When the Islanders met up with the Tampa Bay Lightning, they got out of flight from the Toronto bubble and went to the Edmonton bubble, and they got shelled. 8-2, Braden Point. 5 points, 2 goals, 3 assists. Nikita Kucherov, a goal and 4 assists. And Victor Hedman had 2 assists. I mean, Jordan Eberle did tie the game at 1, but that was about it. Game two, a lot closer. Point would leave that game. You would only have 8 minutes played in the game. But Nikita Kucherov would score with 8-point-something seconds left to go. I know I should have looked it up. I know I should have put it on here, but but you see, that's what when you're doing this on 3 hours of sleep, what are you gonna do? All right, but I didn't. So go to Game 5. Islanders win a shootout, which is a 5-3. Brock Nelson had the game-winning goal with just about under 5 minutes remaining. And Josh Bailey had 2 assists. It's like I have a demon possessing me that just keeps trying to get out. Game 4, this is one that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be coming back to. Brock Nelson scored, if you recall correctly, and within 20 seconds, 27 to be precise, as I have on the bottom line, the Lightning had the lead. So they go from 1-0 to down 1 within 27 seconds after scoring a goal. That was insane. Then the epic overtime game where Jordan Eberle deposits the puck from Anders Lee, and that brought on Game 6. Game 6 went to overtime again, and Anthony Cirelli ended the New York Islanders season. So it's a little bit chilling that they're right back to where they were. But before we get started, we have to do a little bit of WWE style trash talk. And I'm going to start with Mr. Anthony LaRocco as the New York Islanders.
Once again, like last round, I'll play this off as The Rock because he was my favorite. So
The Rock?
Yeah. Nikita Kucherov, you think you impressed The Rock? It doesn't matter what you think. Sitting out the whole year because of a hip injury, coming back, and now thinking you're all some sort of big shot? Nikita Kucherov, what The Rock wants you to do, he wants you to go to the nearest Walgreens. He wants you to buy the biggest bottle of Icy Hot you could find. He wants you to take it back to your candy-ass line mates. And then Kucherov, what The Rock wants you to do, he wants you to hand the bottle to Pullock, because he's the most useless on that line. Andre Pullock, The Rock wants you to take that bottle of Icy Hot and squeeze the entire contents into Braden Point's hands. Braden Point, you claim to have soft hands, so what The Rock wants you to do, he wants you to lather up that Icy Hot real nice, and then Braden Point, what he wants you to do, he wants you to rub all that Icy Hot over on Nikita Kucherov's hip. Now, I know you like that because you're a little cum-see, cum-swa, but then, when you're all done, Kucherov, I want you to take that bottle of Icy Hot, shine it up real nice, turn that sumbitch sideways, and stick it straight up your candy ass. You see Nikita Kucherov, Braden Point, Andre Palat. The 3 of you are going to be visited in your nightmares from 3 faces. J.G. Pajot, Adam Pelech, and Ryan Pullock. The 3 of you are going to see them in your nightmares. They're going to be all over you like white on rice. And the 3 of you are going to be shut down by that trio. In the 3 home games at the Nassau Coliseum, they allowed 1 even-strength goal to the perfection line. Arguably the best line in hockey. So the 3 of you, no more. No more running rampant, putting up points. They're going to shut you down. And then, you're going to go to Game 6 of the Nassau Coliseum. And after the millions and millions of Islander fans are done chanting New York Islanders, you're going to look up at the scoreboard and your season's going to be over. If you smell what the Rock is cooking.
It's got to be tough to follow that one now. And you could have even gone for it and said, LaRocco is cooking.
Yeah.
L-Rock. All right. This is where it really sucks that we don't have John Frykowski with us today. And by the way, John, we're thinking about you. And hoping everything's going to be good today. So we could really use John to do this because he's definitely the expert. But I'm going to have to sub in and be the Tampa Bay. Okay. New York Islanders, you're going nowhere. You know, you think you're all special now that you made the conference finals again? Well, Tampa Bay is doing there many a times. They've been there 4 times over the last 5 years. And you know something? They don't care. They've seen it all. They're the Stanley Cup champions. Oh, yeah. And they were going to show you why they're the Stanley Cup champions and why they're going to be again. They ain't Colorado. They ain't gonna just choke. They ain't gonna be Boston, who's gonna have some issues. As my microphone's falling down. Oh no! Oh no! Oh, there's a little bit of Michael Bublé coming at you too. So what you gotta do is you gotta bring your A game if you're gonna try to beat the champs. That's right, because the cream always rises to the top. And what you're gonna do is you're going to see. They said they got perfection line. Well, Tampa Bay has got literal perfection. They got Nikita Kucherov, didn't play a game at all, and he leads the NHL in points right now. So you better bring it. And speaking about the point, which you get the point, the New York Islanders are going to be in for some trouble because they got Braden Point. And they didn't win a game versus Tampa when Braden Point was in the lineup. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, as I'm fighting the microphone that fell off my desk. So, this has been a wonderful trip back already so far. Let's get it right there. And Anthony, I'm going to ask you, what are your initial thoughts on this series?
So, you kind of mentioned it when you were recapping the last year's. Those first 2 games, the way it went kind of set the tone for the rest of the series, and I don't think it's going to be like that this year. And I say it because, so last year, they play a Game 7 series against Philly, emotional Game 7. The prior 2 games to that were overtime wins by Philly. So the Islanders finally closed them out in Game 7. And they had, like you mentioned, they had to jump on a plane, fly from Toronto to Edmonton, 1-day rest, and then face a Tampa team who was already there for a couple days and rested, and it showed. The Islanders, the Lightning shellacked the Islanders. They had no jump. You could tell they were a tired team. And even Trotz said the other day in his media availability, he's like Game 1 was essentially handed to them. And they were, behind the 8 ball to start. That won't happen again. They're on even playing ground this time. They're both rested. So the likelihood of that happening again is slim to none, the 8-2 win for Tampa Bay. And then Game 2, 1-1 game. It was probably one of the better games the Islanders played in the series. And they lost with, like you said, less than 10 seconds left. And the corpse of Andrew Ladd was on the ice, and he blew his assignment, and that's why Kucherov scored. I don't even know why he was playing, let alone on the ice at that time. If I remember correctly, I think there was something going on with Zibanejad or Clutterbuck, and he took their spot. But, he blew the assignment, and Kucherov scored. Again, that won't happen again. Andrew Ladd is not even on the Islanders roster. He hasn't played a game all year. So those 2 games aren't going to be repeated like that again this year. So I think right from the start, it's going to be more of an even playing field, in terms of both teams being fresh. So, and also, too, they're not in a bubble this year. I see Almighty Arena is going to be rocking, no doubt about it, but the Lightning have to come to the Coliseum this time. And the Coliseum, there's nothing else like it with playoff hockey when the fans are going. It's extremely loud. It's a hostile environment. And not to say that, the Lightning can't win there, but it's going to be really hard for them. And the Islanders showed they're capable of taking a game, and more than one game, in the other team's building, where in Pittsburgh and Boston, they took 2 games in both of their houses. So, one of the reasons why I picked Islanders in 6 is because I do believe they are going to split again in Tampa Bay. But this is the round where I think that they finally win every single game they play at the Coliseum. It's conference finals there. The crowd's going to be insane. They took 2 out of 3 against Pittsburgh and Boston at the Coliseum. I think this year they get 3 out of 3, which is why I see them winning in 6. I think they'll be up 3-1 going back to Tampa Bay for Game 5. But it's going to be a tall order, though. That's for sure. It's going to be. I think it's going to be a real close series. And don't forget, the Islanders, which probably surprises a lot of people right now, they are the highest scoring team in the playoffs right now. So they're known for their defense, shutting teams down, but they're scoring goals. And that's a scary proposition for teams because it's showing that, not only can we shut you down, but we could also put the puck in the net. So I can't wait for 3 o'clock tomorrow. I think it's going to be a phenomenal series.
I mean, obviously, you're talking about 2 of the best teams and left in the playoffs. We're going to be talking more about the other 2 teams in about 20 minutes. But what I'm going to come back to with this, and I kind of said it in a little bit of the trash talk as the microphone was falling down on top of me, which was Braden Point. They didn't win a game when Braden Point was in the lineup, and he was that dominant last year.
He was.
So, that's something you got to be wary of for the Islanders. Now, this team has been exceptional so far in the playoffs at matching up to their opposition. This one is going to be obviously their toughest test, and this is the one time where the opposition literally can match up to them. If you're not getting Hedman's defensive pairing, you're getting McDonough's defensive pairing. Mm-hmm. If you're not getting, and that's McDonough and Cernak, and then you're going to get Savard's pairing. So now the Islanders are the ones that really do the matchup. We've been talking and singing the praises about JG Pageau, which every single time I always have to say, fuck you, JG Pageau. But scarring my memories of the New York Rangers in the playoffs in 2017. But so this is one formidable opponent that they have. Now, the one thing I'm going to tell you again, I know you just said you think the Islanders are going to win every single game at home. That's also a tall order. Nobody travels like the Tampa Bay Lightning. They win games on the road all the time. And I'll bring it back to 2015 versus the Rangers, where they played the last 2 games at Madison Square Garden, and they won 2-0 in both games. Now, also, we know they wilt in big moments. Last year, they didn't. So one of those times was against Barry Trotz and the Washington Capitals. So it's not a tall order. I guess it is kind of a tall order what the Islanders have ahead of them. But we're going to go into more matchups on that in a moment. For starters, let's go with the stars to watch. And if you're going to be the Tampa Bay Lightning, it's got to be Braden Point. Braden Point, another exceptional season that he turns in. 23 goals, 25 assists in the playoffs so far. 8 goals and 4 assists. He had 4 goals and 2 assists versus Carolina Hurricanes. You know, that team that won the President's Trophy. So, and of course, if you look at them, Matt Barzal, he came out of his slumber. 3 goals, 3 assists against Bruins after just 3 assists versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. What others? I mean, obviously, Kucherov is another star that we're going to be talking about right now, literally. what are the players you think, big time players, do you think are going to come up big for the Islanders in this, Anthony?
Well, I know you just mentioned Pajot. Pajot, there's only 3 guys that have more points than him in the playoffs right now: McKinnon, Pastrnak, and Stamkos. So not only is he putting up the points, but he's obviously shutting other teams down, and that's what makes it more incredible, because he gets the tough matchups, but he's still producing one of the top playoff producers in the playoffs so far. So I think that's amazing. Kyle Palmieri has 7 goals. He's amongst the league leaders in goals in the playoffs. And the 2 of those guys are on the Islanders' third line, which shows their depth. They have a lot of scoring depth. Brock Nelson, if you remember, we mentioned he was a monster in the Pittsburgh series, and then I don't know if you remember last time we recorded, I said he was my player that had to step up. I feel like he took a back seat, but then Trotz shed a lot of light on why maybe. So his wife gave birth, and then he played Game 4 on no sleep whatsoever. And then Game 5 was the game where he came back and scored the game winner against Swayman in the third. And then, as you know, in Game 6, he had an unbelievable Game 6. 2 goals. He was all over the place making things happen. So, if that Brock Nelson continues that play against Tampa Bay, that's going to be big. So for the Islanders, aside from Barzal, I look to Pajot. I look to Palmieri to keep it up, and Brock Nelson. And that's not even mentioning the incredible playoffs Beuvillier and Bailey are having, too. So as good and talented as this Tampa team is with their star power, the Islanders are getting a lot of production up and down their lineup.
Yeah, and by the way, that is dedication when you can come right back to the rink on a playoff game and play without sleep. That is some dedication. All right, so first we're going to start with our under the radar player. Who do you have as a guy that no one is looking at right now?
I'm kind of gonna have to say Scott Mayfield. He was fantastic against the Bruins with shutting down the Hall and Krejci line. They're gonna need him to be the same way, because he's gonna see a lot of the Stamkos, Killorn, Cirelli line. That's a line that can hurt you too. So him and Letty are gonna really have to step up, skate with them, take away their time and space. Really, that's what it comes, taking away their time and space, because if you give them too much time, they can hurt you. Stamkos is amongst the league leaders in points. A lot of that's on power play, but still, at even strength, they really have to be on him, play the body on him, frustrate him. But I look to Scott Mayfield to continue doing that, get in their face, clearing the net, blocking shots. So for me, he's our under-the-radar player. He's got to keep playing the way he's playing.
I can't believe I get to use this answer as Steven Stamkos. Steven Stamkos has got 17 goals on the season, and he's Steven freaking Stamkos. But I get to use him as an under-the-radar player, because you're going to look at all the different Lightning guys, and people forget Steven Stamkos didn't play a single game until the Stanley Cup Finals last year. Mm-hmm. Scored a goal, got off the ice, and then I think he played maybe 8 more minutes, or maybe even less than that, in the Stanley Cup Finals last year. He's going to be a huge factor this year. He had a couple of huge goals against the Hurricanes as well. So, by the way, I have to say, this series is what I like to call the Dana Inkpen special. I'll be sending her a clip on this right now. That's a friend of mine, huge Islander fan, Anthony, who moved to Tampa Bay. So then, of course, it was Tampa Bay and the Islanders, and now for 2 straight years, you get to watch your local team and go, oh yeah, I got my childhood favorite team, so you can't lose. But you know what? Yeah, you can, because it's sort of like having your wife and your girlfriend fight. And in my case, I don't have either, so that's it on that. Struggling players to watch. Who's an Islander that's struggling right now that we should keep an eye on?
It's tough, because a lot of them are
playing well. A lot of them playing well.
Yeah, they really are. I guess if I had to say, maybe Jordan Eberle, he's been a lot better, but he hasn't scored as much as I know he can. So I think if he gets going, that's just another added element for the Islanders. A guy who's dangerous that can put the puck in there. He's got a great shot. He can stick handle. So sometimes the big moments he gets small. He's not really a physical player, and this round's going to be hard. So He needs to help out Barzal in the line because we know Leo Komarov is just going to be the guy that just plugs away on that line. So Eberle's really going to have to step up his game and help Barzal create chances.
You know what? I have a similar problem that you have, where you have to look around and try to find somebody that's really struggling and try to be like, oh, who's on the Lightning that's struggling? Nobody. They've played 11 games and they played all really well. I guess the guy to go with is Tyler Johnson, and that's Tyler Johnson. Has got 1 goal in the playoffs. He's been struggling for now like a couple of years. But,
yeah, he fell off.
Yeah, he fell off greatly. He's been a big-time player in the past, and he had a huge goal against Carolina. I believe it was in Game 4, where they had the 8 or 9 goal second period. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was.
And I mean, it shows once again Tampa could flex their muscle and really change things up. All right. Actually, you know what? I jumped ahead a little bit, so we're going to go back for a second. We got to talk about team defense, and that the Islanders second in the league, of course, to Vegas, and Tampa Bay is 6th in the league. This is sort of like an ongoing thing with them in the playoffs. Not so much with Pittsburgh, but Boston was right there with them. I think they were 4th in the league. So, which defense do you think has the advantage on this one?
Once again, like I said with Boston series, if you go by the regular season stats and the numbers, I mean, you got to say the Islanders. They second least amount of goals allowed in the league. They don't have the Victor Hedman name, but just from 1 to 6, they have 6 guys that play the same way. They each know their role to do in the defensive zone. They all do it well. And they got a guy like Varlarmov who I think could have been a Vezina finalist during the season. So despite Tampa Bay having the best goalie in the world, in my opinion, Vasilevsky, and having Hedman and Sergachev, I mean, when you look at the numbers and talk about team defense as a whole, I mean, how do you not go with the Islanders? Pelech, Pullock, one of the best shutdown pairs in the league. Pelech was more so than Pullock, but I thought Pelech was just absolutely fantastic in the series against the Bruins. And then, like I said, mentioned before, Leddy and Mayfield, specifically Mayfield was great in the second round too. And then you have the third pair of Dobson and Green, who Dobson's eventually I think he's gonna be a star in this league. He's still learning his way a little bit, but I think placing him with a veteran like Andy Green, who's been to a Stanley Cup final and has plenty of experience, is good for him. And they're good too in high pressure situations. Sometimes Trotz goes at 5D and he limits Dobson's role just because of he's still relatively inexperienced. But this group as a whole, the Islanders, their team defense and structure, when they're playing that to a T, they're hard to penetrate and generate chances. They limit to the outside. They do a really great job. Tampa Bay, despite having the best goalie in the world, sometimes, and Hedman, they could still be a little leaky defensively. Sometimes they'll make a play defensively and you wonder, like, what was that guy thinking? Sometimes they have those lapses. So the Islanders are going to have to exploit those. But again, another tough, close call. But I mean, I got to go with the Islanders just looking at the numbers.
I think the emergence of Scott Mayfield this postseason, like, he's always been a pretty good player, but I mean, his postseason, he's been outstanding. And I think that's what helps you when you have that third pairing to really match up against the other team. I could use an example with the Rangers and Kevin Kline from 2014, but we're going to go with what you're going to be facing right now, and that's you're going to be facing either the Hedman unit, you're going to be facing the McDonough unit, and then you're going to be facing the Savard unit. And there's 3 different pairings that they could all throw together, and they could just roll. And I mean, it's. I think I actually kind of go with it. It's a little bit of an edge to the Islanders, but wow, it's that is one that there's a lot of good defense that's going to be on the ice all those games. So the goaltenders, Vasilevsky, outstanding season, 30, 10, and 1, 2.21 goals against. Obviously, you said it before, Anthony. He's the best goalie in the world right now. And in our midseason report cards, we actually said it's the Vezina is his to lose. Varlarmov, though, we got to put up his numbers right now. And by the way, look at those numbers. That's 4-1 and 94% save percentage against the Hurricanes. Wow. But Semyon Varlarmov found his game again. And he was probably the reason why they moved on against the Bruins. He made a lot of big saves. Was he what he was last year? No, but I mean, he was sort of the microcosm of him last year. Sort of was the Philadelphia series where he was really solid. Gave him the 3-1 lead. Kind of not so great in the next two games, and then Game 7 came along, and then he was right back to it.
Yeah.
So, all credit to Semyon Varlarmov.
Thomas Greiss.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Greiss played Game 7 and Game 1 versus Tampa Bay, but Varlarmov came back in. He had a couple of huge games. I think I have some of these numbers on here. Like, the overtime winner. He had 36. He had 36 saves, but he had another one where the overtime loss of Game 6, he had 46 saves. And he was one of the reasons why the Islanders are still in that game at all. What's a key matchup that you're looking for in this series?
I got to go back to the Pajot matchup against the Point Kucherov Pullock line. I think that's going to be key. At home, Islanders had much more success against the perfection line. Boston tried to get away from Pajot, and Cassidy was successful in that. But the Islanders have to try to have his line on the ice as much as possible, along with Pelech and Pullock, because they're dangerous. Like I said, I know Stamkos can hurt you too, but I think that's the line that's going to do the most damage. I mean, Point's insanely skilled the way he skates in his hands. He generates stuff. He's probably the fastest out of Kucherov. Well, not probably. He is the best of Kucherov and Stamkos. So, he's going to cause the most problems. And as a pivot, Pajot needs to go toe-to-toe with him. So, that's what I'm looking out for. And, hopefully Trotz can, at least when they're away, he could get Zibanejad against them if he can't get Pajot against them. But he's got to try his best to, like I said, take away their time and space and get the right guys out against them. And the flip side to that is, when Pajot is out against them, they have to try to play in Tampa Bay zone. Because I know John disagreed, but the three of them, I don't believe they're the best defensive players. So if they could cycle them down low and kind of tire them out by keeping puck possession, that's a win-win. So that's the matchup I'm going to be looking for.
All right. The key matchup, I think, in this series is going to be the Islanders penalty kill versus the Tampa Bay power play. The Tampa Bay power play is operating at about 40% right now. That is outstanding. The Islanders penalty kill is operating at 61.7%. That is going to hurt. If you get in a situation where basically you take a penalty, it goes in the back of the net, that's going to affect the way you play on the ice. It just you can't help but think like that. Mm-hmm. So and again with them, I really think that's going to be the key thing, and I think the Islanders more than up to the task. They're a great defensive team, so we're going to see about that. All right, the Islanders will win this series if
they continue scoring at the rate they're scoring. I didn't expect them to score as much as they did against Boston, just because how good of a team Boston is defensively, but they did anyway. So if they could keep scoring and really, really putting pressure on the Lightning D when they go in the zone to get the puck and hit them and make them, like I said, make them turn to get pucks and cycle down low, capitalize on their mistakes, put pucks in the net, take away Vasilevsky's eyes. I think that's the key to winning, by keep producing the way they're playing. Keep attacking, be aggressive. I know you have to worry about going back the other way with Tampa Bay skilled forwards, but they have to be aggressive, because they were doing it against Boston, and in games like 5 and 6, Boston didn't have an answer anymore. They wore them down, and the Islanders took advantage of it, so they have to do the same exact thing here.
I think the Islanders will win the series if... Now, I'm going to use the term if the puck luck still keeps going their way, but luck as residue is design. It's not just going to be it went in off of Jeremy Lauzon's skate as it did in Game 2. No, it's going to be closer to what 5 was with the Bailey centering for Palmieri. Yeah, 2 defender. It hit off of 2 people, but it was still going to make it there, and it just slowed down enough for Palmieri to put it in the back of the net. So just because you might say if the puck luck is still going the way, it doesn't mean that they're not earning it. So I do think their offense is if their offense could really keep it up with Tampa, Tampa's in for a long series. The other one thing to mention though, the Islanders have 43 goals. By the way, 43, awesome number. They have 43 goals in the playoffs so far. There are 2 games where they had 2 empty net goals, so that number is a little misleading, but not much. So they've been scoring some goals, so good for them. And the Islanders are in trouble if
they take a parade to the penalty box. They're going to be in trouble. Tampa Bay's power play right now, like you said, they're running at a ridiculous rate. And they got the pieces of the power play. They move the puck fast. Before you know it's in the back of your net. So this one's easy. They got to stay out of the box. They got to limit Tampa's power play opportunities. And if they do that, they have a good chance to win the series. But if they're undisciplined, which is uncharacteristic of them, as you know, Trotz pointed out when Cassidy made his statements, they were one of the least penalized teams in the league. So if they keep that trend going, they'll be all right. But if they don't, and it's not going to be good for them.
Well, the New York Saints will be at it again. I'll say they're in trouble if the Yanni Gourde line gets going. They're winning more battles with Blake Coleman and everybody. That's the thing, because that's the thing. Boston didn't have any secondary scoring. You look at that series. Yeah. Marchand and Pasternak had great series. The perfection line was everywhere. Problem is Bryce Harper, Taylor Hall, didn't really do anything. So you got what 2 points out of them, and one of them was an empty net goal. Good job. That's really going to help your contract negotiations coming in next month.
Yeah, so he cost them $1 million there. So
he cost himself easily a couple million. Which leads us to our predictions. Yeah. And before Anthony gives his prediction, we do want to say, again, we wish we had Mr. John Falkowski here with us right now, but Phil did say Tampa in 7. Anthony?
So, I just actually saw the ESPN staff predictions, and 8 out of 15 people picked Tampa, which I was surprised. I thought it was going to be more. That was almost evenly split, which I was surprised. But still, the majority of people are saying the Lightning, which I get. Defending Cup champs, I understand that. But I think it's when you have a situation where 2 teams are playing again in the conference finals, sometimes it's really hard for that team who won last year to beat the same team again. So I think, don't get me wrong, Tampa Bay is going to make adjustments to watch tape. I see that comment right there. The Islanders, Barry Trotz, he's a masterclass. He's gonna learn. He's gonna watch tape from last year. He's gonna make adjustments. The Islanders are a better team with Palmieri. Wallstrom, if he gets back in the lineup. I think they're even more sound defensively. So, like you just said, the ticker. I'm gonna go Islanders at 6. I think they split in Tampa, and then I think the Islanders take both games 3, 4, go 3-1 at the Coliseum. They go back to Tampa for Game 5. Tampa wins. And just like against Pittsburgh and Boston, the Islanders come back home in Game 6 and close it out. But that said, it's going to be a hard 6-game series, and it could easily go the other way. Tampa's Stanley Cup champions for a reason. But right now, I think the Islanders have the perfect storm. They're scoring goals. They're defending well. Varlarmov getting his game back. And I think they're determined. I think they, a lot of times the sports players say, when they lose and get so close, they remember that feeling of how they felt that on the game they got eliminated. And they take that with them. They remember what it feels like. They use it as motivation to get the job done this year. And I think a lot of the Islander players remember how they felt that night when Cirelli ended the game. Nelson had that breakaway overtime goal, breakaway where if he scored, it was going to Game 7. So I think the Islanders were close, and I think they're hungry. So we'll see what happens. But I'm going to say Islanders in 6.
This is almost reminiscent of a boxing match where it's where the rematch comes in and then it ends up forcing a third one. But unfortunately, we're not going to get that. It's going to be if the Islanders win the series, they're just going to win the series and move on. And you almost wish there could be another series like this, because I think this is going to be a pretty good series, no matter what the length of it is. Islander fans, my gut is saying just take the Islanders. It's really saying just take the Islanders, because again, I'm sitting down, I'm looking at all the information, I'm processing all this, but I can't take the Islanders. And the other thing about it is, it's not even like a bias thing. It's just I just can't look at that at Tampa Bay and not think that they're moving on. The other thing that works into this is if I said Tampa in 5, I don't think that's going to happen, because I think the Islanders are going to take 2 games, and then that puts us to Tampa in 6. The Tampa Bay is not going to eliminate the Islanders at Nassau Coliseum. That's just not going to happen. So I have to go to
against Boston too,
and that's what I said in the Boston series, and that's why when as soon as the Islanders took control of that series with 5, I went, the series is over. That's just what it's going to happen. Owen, there is only one rock. I can't in good conscience, because that's the other thing too. Even though I said originally when I was making my prediction Pittsburgh in 5, I didn't think the Islanders were going to win on the road because they didn't win in Pittsburgh all year. Once you get that situation where you have your home crowd, and again, I don't think that's going to phase Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay is going to play real well at the Coliseum, but you get those home crowds, and you can feed off that energy. That's the reason why the Islanders are going to be successful, and that's why when you move on. This is going to be a hell of a series. That's the only way to say it. This is going to be a great series. So we made our predictions. We want to know what you think. Put it in the comments below. Are we giving too much credit to the Islanders and their home crowd, or do you think it's going to be a quick series and Tampa Bay is just going to walk right through? Leave a like, share us, and we've been growing, so we've been doing it thanks to people like you watching us right now.
Did you like that video? Of course you did. So why not check out some more of our content? You can check the playlist right here or right here.
Your ideas are intriguing to me, and I wish to subscribe to your newsletter.